Hey guys, Lee Clements with MediaUnlock.net. We're back with the second in our videos digging out the 5D Mark IV's menus. In our first video we talked about the shoot menu and the autofocus menu. A lot of stuff to unpack there. Hopefully these next few menus will be not quite so bad. We're in playback right now. These options are things that you can do on the camera that don't require, or rather that you can do on the camera before you get to a computer. You can go through and select images here to be protected. Select all images on card, unprotect all images on card. This is in case something happens where someone wants to bump the format menu or erase or they try and erase something. You can protect those images and they won't get formatted. Rotate images. If you don't have automatic rotate on, or the sensor didn't quite pick up that you were in vertical mode instead of horizontal mode, you can go through here and specifically pick pictures to rotate yourself. Erase images is a little bit more selective than a card format. You can select batches of images, or if you have delineated your pictures into folders, you can erase folders in particular, or all images on cards. That is not a format. It's just erasing all the images. Print order and photo book setup. Those are things related specifically to Canon and the way that they do things. I've never used print order or photo book setup. They're kind of specific functionality. If you know what that is, then you already know how to use it. Image copy, you can specifically go through and copy images. In the 5D Mark IV, you can copy them from one card to the next. If you have everything on an SD card, you want to copy to a compact flash or vice versa. Raw image processing is a way to go through and do raw conversion. If you were shooting in RAW and you need to save a couple of JPEGs, you can go through here and do a specific raw image processing through the menu already before you ever get to the computer or your chosen editing thing. You can adjust brightness, noise reduction, color space, lens correction, aberration, all of that stuff. It's kind of nice to have for still photography, but these days of laptops kind of preclude having to do this stuff remotely. Cropping, resize, rating, slideshow, image transfer, image jump. The top ones here, not image jump, but image transfer, cropping, resize. All of this stuff, again, this is editing that you can do in camera. You don't necessarily have to do it on your chosen editing platform. But again, with the prevalence of laptops and also with the kind of general idea that you want to get to the computer with everything there, then if you're cropping or resizing or doing that stuff before you hit the computer, then you're potentially limiting yourself later. Image jump, this is a real simple thing. When you're in playback, you can set your thumb wheel, or rather your finger wheel, to do image jumps. So it comes standard at jump 10 images. So if you're in playback and you've got several hundred images on your card, you can use your thumb wheel or use your finger wheel to jump 10 images. You can jump 100 images. You can jump by date, by folder, display movies only, display stills only, protected images only, or by image rating using the previous menu setting there to rate there. This section here is specifically for when you're in playback and you're looking through things like for edits. So highlight alert, this will actually display a flashing warning basically when you have a highlight, something that's blowing out a little bit. Autofocus point display, if this is enabled, then when you're in playback mode, you'll actually see which autofocus point was picked, if you were using an autofocus lens, or at least if you had autofocus on. Playback grid, if you shot a video or something you can play back with the grid on or off, much like we had in live view. Your histogram display, you can either have it set to brightness or RGB. This is when you're in playback mode here. If you press the info button, you cycle through and you can see all of the, see a lot of the image data here. With the touch screen now, you can actually scroll and see a lot more of your, you can see your picture styles, color space, all this stuff. A lot of things that you usually have to wait to get to the computer to see. This is your histogram that it's talking about in the menu. You can set it to display either brightness or RGB. However, you can also scroll down here and see RGB values. So you might as well just leave your histogram set on brightness, and then you can look at your RGB on this here if that's something you need to do in playback. Movie play count, you can either set it to show you the record time or the time code. That's helpful for afterwards if you're going through and looking at stuff and you need to, you know, if you're logging and capturing, that's kind of helpful on playback. Again, all of this is if you can't or don't have access to, can't get access to or don't have access to a laptop wherever you are. Magnification is related to this button here specifically. You can set a 2x, 4x, 8x from center, from selected point. Anything that, this is basically a quick thing for this, this button. Control over HDMI, if you have this camera hooked up to a TV and you, to display the images or display the videos, some television sets will allow you to control playback over HDMI. So you can turn that on or off in this camera, whether or not you want the camera to actually, whether or not you want the camera to be controlled by the television. So that's the playback menu. These are all the settings. This little wrench here, we've got 5 pages of that. So record function, card folder select. Record function standard. Standard is it records from one card to the other. You can tell it which card in this menu, whether you want the SD card or the compact flash card. Auto switch card means that it will record on one card, and then once that card is full, it will switch to the next. Record separately. You notice here you can actually tell it whether you want the RAW and JPEG to switch or record separately, one to the compact flash, one to the SD card, or you can record to multiple. In this case, you can record to multiple. Recording to multiple means that you will be able to, you'll record simultaneously to both cards. So you can record either separately to individual cards. You notice that it automatically changes the settings there. So if I go back to image quality, now I can select a specific quality for a specific card. So say I want RAW on my compact flash card and JPEG fine on my SD card. That is controlled through here. So it's telling you record separately, that's what this is set to. Record to multiple means it records to both cards simultaneously. In that case, something you're going to have to watch out for is what your speed settings are between your two cards, because obviously if one card is slower than the other, then you're going to be limited by that card. Playback, if you are recording separately or multiple or to multiple cards, then playback tells the playback menu which card to look at. You can create folders on your EOS on your cards specifically. Comes standard with 100. You can create folder 101, create folder 102, whichever, and then you can go in and pick specific folders. File numbering, continuous. every time that your shutter opens, it records it as a new file. Or if you're in live view mode, every time you start a new file, or rather if you're in video mode, you start a new file, it's a new file. Continuous just means that when this came from the factory, it started at 00001, and continuous will just continue through. When you hit 10,000, it'll reset to 000. Auto reset and manual reset, you can specifically control whether or not you want it to set back to 00, or if you want to keep going continuously. File name here, you can go in and specifically say what you want your file name to be. So right now it's 1U5A. Say you want it to be IMG underscore and then the image number, or IMG plus the image size. You've got also user settings here that determine what that is. So I can change from IMG to whatever I want. If you need it to, for log and capture, if you need to set that up so that it changes your workflow on the post side, this is a nice functionality to have. Auto rotate determines when the camera will rotate stills from their orientation. So if you take a horizontal picture and then you turn and take a vertical picture, the camera makes a metadata note, says that that the camera was in vertical position when it recorded. If you have it selected on and this camera and the laptop, then if you've taken one in a vertical position, when you're looking at it in playback on camera, then you'll see it in vertical position, and you'll also see it vertically on the computer. I like to leave it on and the computer, because then even if I've taken it in vertical position, it still fills the frame when I'm looking at it in playback. I can just turn the camera to look at it, and then it gets auto-rotated when it's on the computer. If you turn it off, then the camera turns off the sensor, and even if you were taking pictures in vertical mode all day, once you get to the computer, they will all be in default in horizontal mode, and you'll have to go in and rotate every one of them specifically. Format card, that's the button that we don't want to push all the time. Format card is obviously what you do if you need to change the format of the card and erase all the images on it. It's a couple of button presses, so hopefully you won't be doing it accidentally. Auto power off comes factory standard 1 minute. This determines when the camera shuts off if it hasn't had any activity. Obviously you have a hard power switch up here. It won't actually completely shut down, but it kind of goes into a sleep mode with these settings here. LCD brightness auto, you can change it. You only have a few settings here. You have a few settings within auto. Obviously you have a little bit more control in manual. LCD color tone set to standard, cool tone 1, warm tone. That's up to personal preference. I've always left mine on standard. Date and time zone. That's about where we are, not in New York. Language is set to English. Viewfinder display. You can turn on an electronic level within the viewfinder, which looks like that in the viewfinder. Obviously that's a little distracting, so you might not want to have that on, but if you're in a situation where you have to be level and you're not going to be able to look at the electronic level on the back screen, then that's a helpful feature to have. You can turn on a grid display in your viewfinder as well. Here you can go and specifically turn on or off in the viewfinder any of these particular menu items. This is kind of helpful to know if you're shooting in dual pixel RAW and you see it through the viewfinder. Again, this is for if you don't have, for whatever reason, you can't see this screen, or you can't really have access to the quick control on this on the back of here. Touch control, standard, sensitive, disable. You can turn off the touchscreen if you want. This has been set to standard the whole time, and I have had no problems just with a very basic touch. I can't imagine what sensitive would be like, but it would probably be considerably more sensitive than it is right now and introduce some things that I don't want to deal with. Video system for NTSC for PAL. Generally the Americas are NTSC and everywhere else is PAL. Specifically what that has to deal with, and this is just something to keep in mind, if you're in a country with a 60 hertz power cycle, so if the power at the wall is 120 hertz or 60 hertz, you want to be in NTSC. If you're at a 50 hertz power cycle, you want to be in PAL. Battery information. If you have a battery that is Canon branded, you can go into battery info here and actually see the remaining cap, your shutter count, recharge performance. This is a brand new battery, so the shutter count's only at 1. Neat little thing here, if you've got the LP, you see the battery model here. You also see a little thing with the that tells you where the battery is. If you were to have a battery grip on, then this little image would be different, and you could actually select between batteries in that battery grip. If you have an off-brand battery, something that is not a Canon OEM battery, this battery info screen will not display anything. And in fact, I think battery info is usually blacked out. Sensor cleaning, auto cleaning is usually enabled. That starts the sensor cleaning when you turn the camera on and when you turn the camera off. If you really want to clean it now, you can. To clean manually is only used if you know what you're doing or by Canon service representatives. It'll actually lock the mirror up and it'll open the shutter, and you can clean your sensor manually. Info button display options. So as of right now, all of these are on. That's for when you're in shooting mode and you press the info button. The first displays camera settings, displays the electronic level, quick control screen, and custom quick control screen. You can turn these on or off. You can't change the order that they're in, but if you don't care about the camera settings or you don't think you'll ever use the level and you really want to get to the quick control screen more importantly, then you could turn off these front two and have more access to that. Custom quick control, that is in particular that fourth option there. When you press the info button, you can come in here and actually change any quick controls related to the touchscreen. This is a very cool functionality that you have going on here with the 5D Mark IV. You can go in, it looks like they've got it all set up in grids, and you can add any number here, custom controls. You've got external speed light control, noise reduction, all of this stuff. It's very cool and very customizable. Info button, live view display options, same thing, but just same thing as previous, but it's for when you're in live view. Live view info switch settings. So this actually shows you when you're cycling through the info button what you'll see. So screen one is just you've got your basic information here. Screen two adds your white balance settings, your card settings, image size, picture style, a lot of that stuff. 3 adds a histogram overlay as well as the electronic level overlay, and 4 is nothing. You don't see anything on your screen. This is helpful for when you're using an off-camera monitor, or if you just don't care about all that stuff and you just want to see the full image that's going to be hitting your sensor. And once again, you can change the histogram either to brightness or RGB, and the display size. This is relating specifically to the third screen here. And you can reset if you think you screwed something up. Rate button function is specifically for this button right here. If you're in playback mode, you can set it to either rating or protect. So if you're looking at images, say you're going through at a fast clip and you want to rate, you can cycle through 1 to 5 stars rating here, or 0 to 5 stars, I should say. Or if you would rather, you can change that to be a protect button. So you want to protect that image, and you turn that on. Setup for HDMI frame rate, you can change it to whatever your particular display needs to be set at. Some displays can't handle 5994p, so you can change it to 5994i. Some displays also can't handle 2398, so you can actually, specifically pick that, or you can just leave it set on auto. GPS settings. The 5D Mark IV includes built-in GPS and wireless. In the 5D Mark III, both functionalities were available with an adapter. It comes automatically disabled, but you turn it on. Mode 1, even when the camera is off, GPS is still active at regular intervals, reducing battery life. Mode 2, GPS is off with camera off, but GPS signals are received periodically and auto power off. Obviously that affects battery life. Auto time setting, you can tell it to talk to the GPS satellite to get your time and date. Position update interval, every so often. I can't imagine you'd be moving that much, but if you are, you can change that setting. This is my GPS information display. That would change, obviously, if I were to be moving. GPS logger, you can actually you can enable the logger, and you can use it to keep track and transfer that data to the card. I'm going to turn that back off. Communication settings, this is your wireless, built-in wireless FTP transfer. Wireless you can actually use both wireless and near-field connections if your phone is enabled with that. You can use Canon app and control your phone. You can also transfer images to your phone or tablet based on what you have. Nickname, you can register a nickname to identify this camera. So right now it's automatically set for EOS 5D4. You can put in whatever you want to quickly identify your camera on a network. You have to set a nickname if you're going to have the wireless settings on. FTP settings, if you've never used them, you would be very impressed by them. They're for very professional photographers. I won't get into them. If you already know what these are, then you're probably not watching this video anyway. Multifunction lock. This sets specifically, this locks rather any functionality. So right now, this quick control dial is not, you can't reassign this particular button. Any of these that you didn't want to reassign, you could lock them down with this menu option here. Custom shooting mode, that's related to the top, our C1, C2, C3. If you wanted to go through and build your own custom shooting mode and then save those, this is the menu where you would do that. You can also do it on the Canon software, and you would actually register the settings, save them on your computer, or you could transfer them between cameras, again, using this menu setting. Clear all camera settings, that's pretty obvious, and you probably don't want to do that. Copyright information, this is metadata for your pictures. You can enter the author's name, copyright details. If I had it entered, you would be able to display it or delete it. Certification logo display, just your basic Canon certifications. That's just legal stuff that they have to have on this camera. There's your firmware version. You can update the firmware via either a connection to the computer, or you can put the firmware on an SD or compact flash card. Next, we'll be getting into the rest of the menu settings and in a separate video. And in the video after that, we're going to go into the video menu settings. So again, Media Unlocked, feel free to find us on Facebook. We'll have a link to the B&H website if you want to go ahead and purchase this camera. You give us a little bit of a kickback, which lets us continue making videos just like this for you. So if you want to, head over to facebook.com/Media Unlocked. Give us a like over there. We'll keep you posted about this camera and others as we get them. Stay tuned for our next video where we continue talking about the menu of the still settings of the Canon 5D Mark IV. And stay tuned.
Hey guys, if you'd like to check out our website where we have all kinds of fun and exciting blogs, videos, and extra information that isn't on our YouTube page, click right here. If you'd like to talk to us or contact us and kind of take a look at all the different stuff that we have going on, we've kind of funneled it all through our Facebook. You can hit our Facebook page right here and follow us or like us. Now, if you like to look at cool pictures and behind the scenes stuff, we do that on Instagram right here. So go on and follow us on Instagram. And of course, we got our cute little bird right here, Mr. Twitter, and you can follow us as we do our short tweets.